First question. What advice around anger have I accepted in the past that actually cost me my self trust? I know on Reels you can only see part of a map behind me, but that's a map of the US. This is a video, so you see that I am a person of color, which means I am a woman of color living in the United States. And I don't know if you've heard the term angry Black woman or the stereotype angry Black woman, but the advice I was given was to not be that because it's a stereotype. Nobody likes the angry Black woman. You catch more bees with honey than vinegar. Like, we hear these cultural expressions all the time. And when you fit into a box, it can be really easy to listen to some cultural expressions more than you listen to others. So, the advice that I was given and in the past have accepted that I'm free from now, in the past that actually cost me my self trust, was don't be an angry Black woman. And I don't even know if I'm going to need these other questions because this one right here is beautiful enough. Let's unpack this a little bit. So, anger is an emotion that arises oftentimes in reaction to some stimuli, some trigger, as the language is languaged these days. I'm sensing in the circles and the networks that I'm in right now, there's a lot of language floating around, not necessarily embodiment or understanding, but the language is there. So the awareness is there, and that gives us something to hope for. So, with this understanding, anger is an emotion that arises to a stimulus outside of us. That's really it. I felt like I wanted to say more words there, but that's really it. Now, the other part of why more wanted to be said from my mind, but not my body in that moment, was because we as human beings are human. We as human beings are human. We as human beings are meaning making machines, which means that our minds are constantly up there measuring and comparing and deciding and all of these different things. Actually, not deciding. That's okay. Let me break that down from an NLP perspective. We believe our minds are deciding. We believe that small, limited version of ourselves, the ego, who separates us from the collective. We do believe that we make decisions from that place. And at the same time, while that belief is there, I believe, and a lot of individuals in the quantum human design community and even the traditional human design community believe that our bodies actually make the decision. Our body decides first. And actually, this goes beyond human design. This is literally being studied in science right now. Our bodies make the decision for us. Our minds come in and override that decision. And the programming, the strategy that the mind has when it comes in to override that, all of that stuff is learned. All of that stuff is conditioned in. it may not be your truth. So, this piece about self trust, what advice around anger have I accepted in the past that actually cost me my self trust? Anger is an emotion that arises as a reaction to stimuli outside of you. The Taoist podcast episode I listened to feels like the best way to describe that. Talks about taking a breath in between that stimulus, and that gives us our freedom back, and we'll get to that. So many of us, though, especially this week, we've got 49 in our sun right now, which is the gate of revolution. It's the gate of values. It's the gate of my way or the highway. And it's literally running rampant in the entire collective right now. And what's balancing that energy is the gate of possibilities. So when you're not conditioned to believe in positive expectation and possibilities, then one can assume that you're conditioned to the opposite, to believe only negative things will happen. So when you've got this underlying foundational energy of possibility, which is polarized by the collective narrative of scarcity and negativity, then when you are in reaction, which is an energy of that sun energy, and you're only reacting to what you think are limited, scarce possibilities, then that my way or the highway thing gets really scary because then people are more concerned with being right than being compassionate with their way, right? And their way or the highway, as they say. They're more concerned with their way than the way of one, the law of one. So, in this angry conversation, you will notice this week a lot of reaction. And anger is a possible reaction that you will see. Anger is an emotion that I notice, I feel. I get to take a breath between me noticing that stimulus of anger, or me noticing the stimulus, me noticing the response of anger try to bubble up in reaction. And as that bubbling is happening, I can take a breath. I can, as a sovereign being who does not run on autopilot like a robot, as we've conditioned to be, as a human being, not a human doing, I can make the conscious choice to notice the stimulus, take a breath in between that reaction. And this space, this luminal space in between, is where we have power, is where we reclaim our sovereignty. Of course, as humans, hindsight is often clearer than in the moment. So we see these opportunities, and I want to be really clear: when we see these are opportunities for us to see that there was something that we did not like that occurred, and we use that as feedback, not as fuel for self-punishment. And so this piece around the advice that I was given, don't be an angry Black woman. Do not be an angry Black woman. Well, first part of that is don't be angry, which, as we've just established, is a human emotion that we all have access to. Don't be angry. Don't be an angry Black woman, which puts this narrative of hyper vigilance and at that point, you're setting yourself up for failure. Because if you identify as a Black woman, especially in America, and I bring this up only because I'm not into the politics. I'm really not. I did notice an election where that fear of an angry Black woman being the head of our country, yes, she looks calm right now. Like, I felt that in the collective narrative. And as a country, it was decided that we were going to go in a different direction. But this piece of you can't help being a Black woman in America. You could try. I heard people can, like, change their passports or move away, but with the state of how we are as a country right now and our representatives for this country, there's not a lot of countries outside of us that are accepting of us. They're like, "Oh, you're from America? Mm." And so the acceptance of being able to take yourself out, but even if you were to remove yourself from this country, I'm sure stereotypes are global. Pretty sure of that. You can't change being a Black woman. And if human beings have the natural option or possibility of anger as a reaction to the stimulus that's presented to them, then in essence, you can. You can choose. With a lot of awareness and practice, you can choose. But for the sake of this stream of consciousness, you can't change the fact, this is how I'll say this. You cannot change the fact that anger is available to you as a human being as a response. So if you can't change the fact that anger is available to you as a response, as a reaction to stimuli, and you can't change the fact that you are a Black woman, in my case, then being given the advice of don't be an angry Black woman and listening to that, that cost me my self-trust, no? Because at that point, what you're telling me is that I can't be human. Not that I can't be an angry Black woman. You're telling me that I cannot be human because of how my human presents itself. I was going in a different way with this live stream today. The second question, uh, the second question I think I will answer actually. When I hear lead with compassion, what part of me tightens? The part of me that tightens around that is the part of me in NLP that notices generalizations. Mm, I'm not going to go in that direction. Not today. I'm going to tie this back into the conversation that we're already having, which is when I hear lead from compassion, the part of me that tightens is the part of me that was conditioned. Hi, Christine. The part of me that was conditioned to believe and hold and accept, don't be an angry Black woman. What I'm instead choosing to receive, lead with compassion in this moment is the compassionate acceptance of one's self as a human. In the video, the Taoist person who was talking about these principles, it's really good to see you too. What was actually said? I think I took a screenshot of what was actually said. I'm really glad that you're here. um, what was actually said? Okay, so I'll run through this real quick so I can refresh my memory. Taoism has identified three principal roots of anger, three poisons that, like poisoned underground springs, constantly feed this destructive fire. So the first of the roots is an obsessive attachment to our personal expectations. We construct inward scenarios of what should happen, of how others should respond, and these expectations, often unconscious, become gilded cages that prevent us from. Took a lot of screenshots. All right. Um, let's see. Compassion. Christina came in, and I got all excited, and then I lost my train of thought. Um, uh, let's see. I understood where the person who did the Taoist podcast was coming from when he said to choose compassion in moments when you get angry with others because of these roots that are being untangled. And Christina, please don't apologize. I'm happy that you're here because I was going somewhere totally different with this live stream. And you brought me back to the original, what I was coming on here to share. The compassion piece is important. We see it constantly. We live in a world that needs more love. And yes, sometimes I use compassion synonymously with love because I believe that compassion comes from love. It is, at the end of the day, in human design, in our heart center. So it is a gift that we have access to from our hearts, and our hearts are often associated with love. And the thing that upset me, or that I noticed caught my attention, was that in the advice that we're given to heal the world needs more love, the world needs more compassion. It creates martyrdom sometimes if you don't have the awareness of knowing these other pieces of how things are languaged, of how much awareness it takes to really do these things effectively. Because if you are so compassionate that you swallow your own anger in order to keep the peace, the body keeps score of that. The situation may pass, the boat may sail, the what is it? You may win the battle, not the war. whatever phraseology you want to put on that. But your body remembers. It stays with you. That feeling of anger just gets muted down until something else comes as a stimulus that ignites that anger. And this time it settles in deeper, especially if it's something that doesn't pass through you. When we interrupt the pattern of anger with fixing instead of presence, the anger only grows because what we put our intention and attention on is what we'll see. That moment of presence that I was talking about at the beginning between anger or between the stimulus, excuse me, something happening outside of you, that trigger, that stimulus, and the reaction of anger that is literally a human response. It bubbles up, it elicits. But that space in between, that is where we have so much power. And even just one breath can be all we need to actually choose a different reaction, or at least transmute that energy. Because guess what? At the end of the day, it's okay to be angry. And I think that's what the saying, don't be an angry Black woman, bringing that full circle, it makes it okay. It doesn't make it okay to be angry. And then it puts a double whammy of not only is it not okay to be angry, you can't be an angry Black woman. Like, you can't be, like, literally whatever moment of someone seeing you and attaching that label to you in your human experience, like, you can't be that. So when I hear this lead with compassion as a generalization, yes, lead with compassion. Most importantly, though, that starts with yourself. Being compassionate with yourself when you have human moments, when you have human experiences, when you have human reactions. I find that so much of my studying has been so that I feel like I have all the information that I need just kind of running in the background so that in that moment I can choose one of these mini tools. One of the things that I realized in listening to another one of these podcast episodes was that feeling of overwhelm. When we are resourced, when we are rested, when we had our yoga that morning and our green smoothie and whatever is your routine and ritual to get you into align what you feel as though is alignment, when you're resourced, it's really easy to choose a breath instead of anger as a reaction to a stimulus. But when we have been up with a child all night who has been sick, throwing up maybe, or when we are just overwhelmed by all of everything that is life, right? We got social media, we got taxes, we got bills, we have a number of things that one could have floating in one's field that would overwhelm them in a moment where something outside of what was expected, like that's literally life all the time. A moment something happened that wasn't according to plan, because we as humans have this illusion of control. And if we're not resourced enough in that moment, it's not so easy to choose the breath. It's easier to choose the natural human reaction of anger. You stub your toe, anger is gonna come up. Ouch. It's pain. It hurts. That's a natural human reaction. Many of us have actually trained ourselves to take a breath in those moments of like, I stub my toe, and you'll immediately see an adult go, right? Because we know in those moments, we've tried it enough to know breath doesn't take the pain away, but it gives us sovereignty in that moment. It gives us freedom. It gives us choice, right? After we take that breath, it's a choice to continue to engage in the theatrics of I just stubbed my toe. It's also a choice, which I'm sure you've observed, to sit there and calmly breathe through the pain, understanding that this pain is sensation in our bodies. We notice the anger arise, we notice the reaction come up, and we say, I see you, right? And this is where the not fixing thing comes in. Not, I see you, go away. Not, I see you, I'm gonna deal with, like, I see you. I notice you, and I choose differently. Because, like I said, that choice lives in the body. The mind is the one that's like, you just stubbed your toe. I can't believe you did this. I can't believe, oh my gosh, you are so stupid. You didn't see that, like, bed edge there, or like whatever you stubbed your toe on. Like, the mind can be so, but our bodies return back to the breath naturally. As a matter of fact, the conscious awareness in the return back to the breath is what our bodies are desiring in that moment, because our bodies are breathing through the pain, through the mind telling us this hurts really bad and I want to cry and I want to throw a tantrum right now. So that moment between the stimulus or trigger of whatever it was and your reaction to it, those are opportunities for you to lead with compassion for yourself. We have what I feel like is enough practice being triggered or noticing external stimuli from someone else and not making us angry, and us choosing compassion, like, oh, you know, their dog just died, right? They're going through a lot. We've had a lot of conditioning around leading with compassion in that way because, right, the generalizations, the world needs more love, the world needs more compassion. And when we hear things like that as people who are used to solving challenges, we're like, that's a challenge. You're right. The world does need more of this. Let me be the one, right? And that's where this consciousness of martyrdom comes up. But let me be the one, right? I'll put my emotions to the side and I'll lead with compassion for everyone else. What about compassion for yourself? Oh, we don't talk about that. That's why we're talking about it right now. Because if we don't start having compassion for ourselves, our gifts, our human experience, which includes emotions, our human experience includes emotion. And we're now having language around emotions. We have Inside Out 1 and 2. Uh, we have social emotional learning in school. We have emotional intelligence being a key buzzword these days. The knowledge is there, the awareness is coming online, but the embodiment leaves a lot to be desired. Compassion is not always the first response. It can be conditioned to be that. The minds think of it. I know it to be an integrated response. And I want to just expand upon it, upon that integrated response piece. This went longer than I thought it was going to. But I want to expand upon that integrated response piece for a second because integration looks like in that moment, going back to the example, stubbing your toe, having the human response of, "Oh, this is painful. Oh, this is, grr, I stubbed my toe," right? The human reaction. The integration piece comes with some of the things that I said after that we don't notice in the moment because we're so busy focused on the sensation. Integration looks like that moment has passed. That moment, I noticed myself being really angry. And then I noticed myself being sad. And then I noticed that some of where that was coming from was because not necessarily the pain, but in my mind's play by play of what led to the why did this happen to me is the question that we as humans so often ask. Why did this happen to me? And in neurolinguistic programming, we are trained to actually remove why from our vocabulary that we use with clients because the mind will always come up with, we are meaning making machines. You want to know why your car got towed from the apartment lot that you live in when your sticker was present and everything was fine? The universe will give you reasons. I mean, not the universe, your mind will give you reasons. The universe comes in integrated later and is like, "It was for this bigger picture because this and that." But the mind doesn't know that. And unfortunately, in those moments where we are in that in-between space between stimulus and reaction and movement with the body, the mind is what we have if we don't choose the body. So the mind is like, "You're so stupid. You did all these different things." And so the integration piece comes in noticing my mind was not nice to me in that moment. And instead, what I started to do is I started to ask myself, what would happen if Taylor had done that? What would happen if Taylor was running so fast that she didn't see whatever it was that I probably told her to pick up off the floor? And she fell and she's now hurting. Am I gonna be the mom who's like, "I told you to pick," like she's literally bawling her eyes out. Oh my God, I'm so hurt. "I told you to pick that up anyway." Or am I gonna be the mom who is, "Oh my gosh, come here. Like, are you okay?" Am I gonna be the mom who's tending to the emotional moment and letting the lesson come in once the emotions have settled? That is emotional intelligence embodied, not just talking about it. We have to allow the space for the emotions to arise. Because when you try and just fix them by making them go away, they don't go away. They become buried deeper, and the next time something happens that pokes at it, it's a compound effect. Compassion is not always the first response, it's an integrated one. And that is why so much of the work that I do with my clients is around integration, is around building these micro practices, these micro rituals, routines of healing that inner self-talk, because that is who shows up. I don't know if you've noticed this, but that voice that's also mean in that moment is also the voice that asks random questions during commercials and tries to make connections from commercials. That's the voice that also is like, should I have salad for breakfast this morning? Or should I have the waffles and eggs that I know are calling my soul without the sugar-free syrup, right? This mind is the one that is always talking. And so it's through creating those pockets of connection and compassion, compassionate connection. I like alliteration. That works. Compassionate connection with oneself, with one's body. Some people call that meditation. Christina is from Inside Timer, so I know we know a thing or two about that. That integration is so important. Without the integration piece, without looking at the deeper level of it, we just stay stuck in patterns. We keep asking, why does this loop keep showing up? And it creates frustration. It creates bitterness. It creates anger, actually, as an emotional reaction for some people. Creates disappointment. That's a goal, Christina. It's coming. I like it here first because this is where all my writing is. So I was not planning for this to be 39 minutes long. So I did have other questions, but I feel like those two really took me where I needed to be. So I want to make sure that I close this with a bow because my open ajna just went in so many different places. Maybe compassion isn't about being better. Maybe it's about being honest after we're resourced. Maybe anger doesn't need to be eliminated, just listened to. If this stirred something in you, you're noticing. And that is a space that I am placing myself in more and more. This space of noticing and not judging and not making meaning from a place of why. As a matter of fact, one of the questions that I switched out for why was, how is this a blessing? How is this thing that was not a part of the plan? How is this a blessing? And as I mentioned at the beginning of this stream, we this week have reaction as an energy collectively. I don't know if you've been noticing it yet. We've been in this energy for Let me see. I did have it looked up. The 7th. Okay, 2 days. So we've been in this energy for a couple of days now. So I don't know if you've noticed that reaction piece, that my way or the highway piece. My invitation to you as you navigate this energy over the next few days is to notice. Notice what you feel in your body. Notice when you get angry. Notice when you get frustrated. Notice when something saddens you because somebody chose their way. Notice. And the caveat to that noticing is noticing with compassion, non judgment. Once we get through this transit, I know there's another transit that's going to bring us some more work to do with what we've been noticing this week, because that's just how soul curriculums being human work. But this week is an invitation to notice. Ego bust, yes. Busy brain, hard emotions, yes. Just notice. Notice what's coming up. Notice after what interactions these things are happening. Notice. Next week, we'll start to think about taking some action on that. But this week, just notice. And what I'll leave you with as an affirmation this week is I don't owe compassion at the expense of self trust. I don't owe compassion at the expense of self trust. I like that. Notice, notice. Sounds the same. I like it too. What we're doing with this noticing and not trying to fix it is the cultivation of that self trust. So much of our lives, we try to fix things about ourselves, about other people, about our circumstances. Let's just notice for a moment. And when we notice that we are not choosing compassion with ourselves, notice that too. Notice that too. Because it's with that awareness that you can actually change that pattern, that you can actually change that loop. I am hosting my transformational Tuesday call tomorrow at 12 p.m. I have appreciated your engagement in the chat during this live stream. I love you. And then put a little heart. And this Tuesday space that I host at 12 p.m. is a space to have more conversations like this, to name your human experience, to celebrate the wins, to get guidance from the universe. We normally do a little card pull at the beginning as a collective to see what insights want to come through for us, what wants to be illuminated. Join me. It would be an honor to have you in that space. It is an honor to have you in this space. I appreciate your support and I wish you well.